You're like an old man relearning how to walk again.
That's actually pretty accurate.
He does have gout. I don't know if we've mentioned that since being on Razzball. I'm sorry. I don't know if that's a sensitive subject, but it's true.
So, yeah, I mean, I didn't know if you wanted to get into it on the third show, but at this point, technically, if you want to talk about the gout, feel free to do so.
It's a really personal matter for me, Bobby. I'm not quite ready to be that vulnerable with the larger viewing public, especially now that we're on YouTube. I have to show my feet to truly explain it. I don't, but I
so much don't want that.
Oh, I mean, I don't want to take it all away.
Take me home, country roads. Shut up. Then do the thing, please.
Hello, good football to all. This is the Shall We Football Podcast. I'm Ryan, my co-host AJ and Colt. Coming up, our SWF redraft fantasy running back rankings, courtesy of our own fantasy expert, Michael Coulter Snowdy, aka Colt, aka Chef Grundle. We're talking perineums.
I checked his LinkedIn. And that was there. Go on.
Talking perineums. Now our guest, the man who decided that instead of sweeping our filthy podcast under the rug, he's going to put it on the mantle. Oh, that's a terrible decision. But this is Bobby Lamarco. You can find him on Twitter
Bobby
Lamarco as the traditional spelling. The fantasy football contributor and head fantasy football content for Razzball. That's at Razzball. Cannot stress enough. It's because of Bobby we're able to call Razzball Fantasy both home and our daddy. Bobby, you will attempt a new version of our pronunciation game. I know you've listened to a couple of our shows. Those are words Evan can't say.
He can't.
Evan is our beloved former roommate. AJ and I have both had the pleasure individually of him living with us. My wife and I have adopted him as our adult son. He is the true star of Netflix's Jewish matchmaking. That is Evan Carmison. We will present the Mac Oracle Award for episode MVP, named for the middle name of New England quarterback Mac Jones and his heavenly dad bod. Bobby, we pronounce it Mac Oracle because that's how Evan spelled it in a text one time.
It was too wordy. We got rid of it. Go on.
It did get wordy. Now, go follow us on Twitter at SWF_podcast. That's at SWF_podcast. Subscribe. Watch us on the Razzball Fantasy YouTube channel. Go to razzball.com to not suck at fantasy sports no more. Bobby, would you like to give us a little rundown of what Razzball is and what Razzball does, just for our listeners that are kind of carrying over to your product?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Razzball does everything under the sun. We do football, we do baseball, do hockey, basketball. We throw in some Quidditch from time to time if you're into that kind of stuff. Everything you can imagine. A lot of fantasy football, but we talk a lot of football in general too. We got baseball. I mean, when I tell you baseball is huge over there right now, I mean, we got 100 pitcher rankings, all that stuff going on right now. But make sure you follow us on YouTube at Razzball Fantasy. Make sure you jump over to the audio side. We also have a Razzball Fantasy Football podcast. We also have YouTube, IG, and TikTok at Razzball Fantasy. I mean, we're everywhere now. So if you guys hear us here, go give us a follow across the board. Follow me at Bobby Lamarco too. We're going to be dropping content all off season long, and we're excited to get to running back rankings today.
Yeah, we're not asking either. Go do that stuff.
Yep, do it. Thank you, Bobby.
Absolutely do it. That's an order. Bobby, we have rules of engagement on this here show. Human decency and puns not tolerated. Name calling is required. Do not wait until people are done talking to opine. No rules, just right. Brokeback Snakehouse. AJ used to have me read the most obscure rap lyrics he could find on the interwebs. He has chosen not to.
No, it's not obscure. It was obscene is what I was going for. And boy, did we get there. We really hit it.
Boys, I'm going to do one of your rules right now and cut you off and let you know that I got to go get my plug because my laptop's about to die. So I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Love it, brother.
Hell yeah. All right, let's pause for stations by themselves. What do you guys want to talk about right now? Because we're on video and we can't check out the glasses. It's because
those are hot. I'm going to put you on the big solo view.
I cannot stop from blinking. So if I take these off, you'll see like a butterfly kisses, and I'm not trying to convey that. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I do enjoy butterfly kisses.
I'll give you regular kisses.
All right.
Like that.
Butterfly Kisses and that song do emotional things to me that I don't really appreciate mostly. But I do like those glasses. And your terrible towel usage, very strong.
It's getting hot. My neck is hot.
It's warm outside, AJ. I'm surprised you're wearing long sleeves.
It's a crisp 60 degrees. The only temperature for a home, as far as I'm concerned. Well, I mean, what is your, if not 69 degrees?
It's 69. It's very nice.
Same.
Cool. Yeah, same.
Yeah, there's no other way.
Throw that to real quick. See if you
Bobby, do you know what temperature your thermostat is set at? That's what we talked about while you were gone.
I live in San Diego, so I'm always at a cool 70 around here.
All right. It makes sense. It's fine.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean,
listen, if it's at 69 and you have kids, you cannot let them at thermostat, or else they're going to look at it and they're going to know, you know?
Yeah. Do you just leave the windows open all the time?
Yeah, 100%.
Dude, I would too. Gentlemen, now that Bobby's got all of his things configured, shall we football?
Yeah.
Damn right.
Let's football a little. All right. Running back rankings, tiers 1 and 2. We have 6 tiers. We're all inclusive here. Coulter, you are our fantasy guru on this show. You care deeply about this.
I do.
Explain the scoring, league format, all of that the rankings apply to, and tell us. Let's go tier 1 first, and then we can talk about tier 1, please.
Sounds good.
Actually, you know what? Ryan, I would like you to read tier 1 and 2, please, and spare no expense, please.
Sure. All right. I'll start. I'll read tier 1. We have Christian Jackson McCaffrey, aka Run CMC. He's from San Francisco.
A little quicker though, if you don't mind.
Yeah, Austin Eckler, Chargers. Saquon Rasul Cuevas Barkley, love that. Saquats. The Giants, Bijan Robinson. He's a rookie. Rounding out tier 1 at number 4. Coulter, please do tell us about your rankings and why you went 1, 2, 3, 4 in tier 1.
Tier 1's pretty simple. I mean, it's targets, carries, high value touches, right? We want the usage. We want the goal line usage. We're looking for the high value touches, the goal line touches. It's efficiency as well. Austin Eckler has been uber efficient in his career. Last year, Eckler only had 915 rushing yards. He had 722 receiving yards and 127 targets. That's absurd. Obviously, last year was a little bit of an outlier with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen missing a lot of time. But we've seen the Chargers use Eckler. Like, that's the kind of usage we would like to see a Jahmyr Gibbs get, because there's very few bell cows in the league this year, or this day and age in the NFL in general. So CMC gets that kind of work in the passing game. Eckler gets those kind of looks in the passing game, as does Saquon, and he gets a lot of carries. So I'm projecting Bijan to be in that same tier based on the fact that he was selected 8th overall in the draft. That usage is going to be there because no team takes a running back in the first round and doesn't give him that kind of a workload. That's what
fair point.
We're all expecting that from the fantasy community and from just a real life NFL standpoint, that the workload is going to be there because you don't take a running back in the first round.
Yeah, that's a really fair point. Bobby, your thoughts on 1 through 4?
Yeah, I actually had Derrick Henry in that top 4.
Really?
I'm still in on Derrick Henry. I'm not going to stop being on Derrick Henry. I talk about him a lot recently. 19.1 PPR points per game last year. That was literally a 1.5 better than Saquon Barkley. So he's still a separator. And when you look at Derrick Henry, he dominates in wins and he struggles a little bit in losses, but it's not going to get worse than last year. Ryan Tannehill missed time. Traylon Burks missed time. 3 of their top offensive linemen missed time last year as well. So I think that a healthier offensive line, Traylon Burks coming into his 2nd season, I think Ryan Tannehill is going to probably play the full season as well. I just think Derrick Henry is probably going to be right back to where he was last year and be a difference maker. So that's why I still have him in my top 4.
AJ, your thoughts on 1 through 4, please?
It's bizarre to not see Derrick Henry in there.
Agreed, yeah.
I was just looking at attempts per game, and I know we're talking about all touches, but if you look at attempts per game, it's basically him and Joshua Jacobs, and then kind of everybody else. It's weird to not see him in there. I'm always hesitant with I've always been hesitant with rookies this high up, but Barkley was as a rookie, and we've seen that movie before. So, and I think the dude's unreal anyway. We've got outside of Bijan, which of these three are you guys most concerned? I'll give this to Bobby. Which one of the top most concerned with injuries?
Injuries per se? I mean, listen, CMC has been kind of in on the lineup. Barkley missed some time. Eckler feels like he's due at this point. Bijan's a rookie, so I feel like we can't really worry about injury from that standpoint. But
yeah,
honestly, I'm not overly concerned about the injuries. It's hard to predict, especially when it comes to like the soft tissue stuff and the ACLs. Like, I think, and there's been a study that talked about older running backs and how they end up getting less injured as the older they get. Obviously, their athleticism deeply goes down a little bit, but they don't get the soft tissue injuries anymore. They're used to the NFL grind. So it gives me a little hope for like Eckler, CMC, and Barkley. So I feel pretty comfortable from an injury standpoint.
I'm a little concerned about Austin Eckler from a production standpoint, to be honest. Does anybody I would probably slot Nick Chubb up into that tier if I were to drop Austin Eckler, and probably slot him at 3 behind Saquon. Does anybody else have a similar move they would make if they were to change around that top 4?
I think you could argue maybe a case could be made for Tony Pollard based off the passing game and efficiency.
Coming off injury, difficult to really guess about.
Right, that's why I can't get him there. But
sure,
with the explosive play making ability, maybe.
Yeah, Bobby, your thoughts?
Yeah,
Derrick Henry's probably yours.
Derrick Henry's it was Derrick Henry. We don't need to go into it again. I think if a dark horse would probably be Ramondre Stevenson.
That's what I was just thinking about.
I love that, buddy. I love it.
I talked about this the other day. Him in wins without Damian Harris last year, he averaged 16 carries a game versus only 10.5 with Harris. So that bump in usage just right there. I understand Pierre Strong and Ty Montgomery make a passing game work, but I mean, we've seen Bill O'Brien kind of lean on one running back from Lamar Miller, even Arian Foster towards the end of his career. So I think it's still a little bit of a reach, but I would say he could be a dark horse.
Belichick loves Stevenson too.
He does. He's loved him through the fumbles.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's say it a lot. Let's say it a lot too for Belichick.
Yeah. You can't love me at my best if you don't love me through the fumbles. AJ, what is yours? Ramondre Stevenson as well?
So my only concern is the turnover at tackle for the Patriots. They've had some real solid run blockers, and back Trent Brown, who's like a boomerang in the Patriots, and they are seeing some new faces on the offensive line. Well, new faces, and Isaiah Wynn is gone, so we'll see him hurt a little bit too. So it's not huge. If the offensive line is right, like I think Ramondre Stevenson is. It's tough for me to kick somebody out of there, but maybe in addition to tier 1.
Sure. All right. I guess I'm reading tier 2 as well.
Yeah, go ahead and do it good.
All right. Tier 2, we have Nicholas Jamal Chubb from Cleveland, Josh Jacobs, Vegas Raiders, Tony Randall Pollard, those Cowboys, Derek Lamar Henry Jr., a.k.a. King Henry or Tractor Cito of Tennessee Titans. And then
I'm really into that.
These
are all courtesy of Pro Football Reference.
Okay.
And I tried to cross-check them. This took forever, mind you, to find the nicknames of 46 different men. But Tractor Cito is arguably the best of the bunch. Spoiler alert.
Are we all comfortable with where this is if we accept the top 4 for what it is?
These are all the guys that these are the only guys that I would hear an argument that they could eventually end up in tier, of which, like Bobby said, could be in tier 1. I don't know if there's anyone else outside of these 5 guys, 5 to 9, that I would kind of hear an argument about. Maybe, but these are the obvious. These, I think it's the order. Bobby, what do you think about the order here, 5 through 9? tier 2.
I actually, personally, I have Henry and Stevenson ahead of guys like Chubb and Jacobs.
Is that just because of passing game?
No, it's not just because of passing game. I think Josh Jacobs, we're underestimating. Derek Carr last year, I know didn't have his best season, but I think we're underestimating a little bit of the disruption in the quarterback position for him. And Derek Carr had the tendency of checking down a lot, but I talked a lot about how Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller missed a lot of time last year. They only played 7 games last year together behind Devontae Adams. And if you look at the splits between when Josh Jacobs played with those two players, he lost about 2 to 3 targets a game, but he also lost about 5 carries a game because they were able to throw a little bit more because they had more weapons in the passing game. So I'm a little hesitant to just anoint him back close to that top 5 range, but overall, I still have him in my top 10. I still think he's going to be solid.
Well, why? My question is, why is Nick Chubb not appreciated more?
I agree, Ryan.
He had one of his least efficient seasons last year, and he averaged 5 yards a carry. Like, it was unbelievable. He had 300 plus carries for the first time in his career. He had 1,500 yards, 12 touchdowns, averaged 5 per touch, 89 yards a game. And that was a less Nick Chubb season, and he is turning 28 this year. In a different era, he's a Hall of Famer, right?
Yeah,
he's on track to be a Hall of Famer.
For sure.
So that's kind of why I want him in my top 4. I could even drop Bijan Robinson, but I think Nick Chubb deserves to be there.
I think he just takes such a hit in PPR formats,
sure,
such as this, because the pass catching isn't really there. He had 27 catches on 37 targets for 239 yards last year, which isn't. I mean, it's a low floor. It's something, but it doesn't really get you super jazzed up.
Yeah, that's fair.
Pure runner, one of the best in the game.
Yeah. All right, we done with tiers 1 and 2, boys.
Let me say this, Ryan, in defense of your Nick Chubb. There's no longer Kareem Hunt.
Like what you did there.
Please. There's no longer Kareem Hunt there. So I guess we can throw this out as a hypothetical. If someone wants to dive in, that's fine. But do we see Nick Chubb's receptions rise a little bit because there's no Moss, Kareem Hunt? Does the offense change a little bit? Or does Deshaun Watson check down? I don't know. Well, does he? Yeah, sure. Anyway, does Nick Chubb's role change a little bit? I think the dude is good enough that if the role was changed, that he would adapt to it. But I'm just not sure if the offense will give him the opportunities to do that. We'll see. Anyway.
Valid question and one to keep an eye on. Let's go to tier 3 and 4. Tier 3, we have Jonathan Taylor, Najee Jerome Harris, Aaron LaRue Jones, Breece Hall, Joseph Tyler Mixon, Travis Etienne Jr., and Jahmyr Gibbs, the rookie from Detroit. How are we feeling about 10 through 16? Let's start with our illustrious guest, Bobby Lamarco.
Breece Hall worries me. We've seen it plenty of times. These guys coming off serious injuries. He's coming off this ACL tear. Didn't get surgery until about November of last year. And we hear it last year was with Cam Akers and J.K. Dobbins, and everyone's ramping up for week 1. Now you're hearing rumblings that they might be interested in Dalvin Cook. Why would a team who has an elite back like Breece Hall be interested in Dalvin Cook? It's probably because he might not be 100% week 1. It's very, very – I did an analysis on Razzball.com. I reviewed the ADP versus fantasy finish in PPR for injured players coming off ACLs, Achilles, and Liz Frank injuries. 90% of the running backs did not return ADP. So if you're looking at top 12 running backs. So I have him closer to RB 18. I'm a little concerned about that because he's a stud and got Aaron Rodgers there now, and I know that. And probably in the second half of the year, he's going to be great. But I'm a little hesitant to go all in on Breece Hall because of the injury.
Yeah, he's an actual monster. But yeah, you are correct.
That's a strong case, Bobby.
What week did he get hurt last year? It was early, like somewhere
Week
between
8?
4 and okay. Was it 8?
Ryan, what's our rule about questions that we don't know?
I was trying to look it up. My internet's not cooperating.
You're stalling. Very nice.
I was trying to stall. So week 8, he led that team in rushing for the season. Still,
Sorry, week 7 he got hurt. My apologies. I was off by
Makes it more impressive.
Not your fault, Bobby.
He continued to lead that team in rushing in 2022, besting Michael Carter, the North Carolina product, by 30 yards, and he only played in 6.5 games.
Wow.
Can I just say something too about this that I think a lot of people forget? The Jets were 4-2 to start the year.
Yeah,
pretty good.
So this idea that the game flow is going to change and all of a sudden Aaron Rodgers is going to let them win games, and yes, at the end of the year they're going to have a better record. But when Breece Hall played last year, they were 4-2, and they won the 5th game. He got hurt. So this idea that all of a sudden that this infusion of wins are going to spike his points per game doesn't make sense. They were 5-2 when he was on the field last year.
Yeah, I think the Jets have something cooking. Okay, so do we think Jonathan Taylor at 10, obviously a product of last year, severe down year after a tremendous 2021, could that potentially be a great value at 10, or do we think that maybe last year was a sign of things to come?
Colt.
I think it's personally due to Anthony Richardson. That's why I put him there at 10, because I think Richardson steals some of the goal line touchdown bunnies. I think he's going to get some design runs.
Yeah,
I think he's going to eat into Taylor's workload a little bit more than people may suspect. I mean, I think Taylor's going to get plenty of utilization too. I think that his ceiling can be a little capped. Last year he was a consensus 1 or 2nd overall pick in a 1 QB redraft league. I took him 101 in a league over McCaffrey. It's like I can never get the 101 right in redrafts when I get it. I take McCaffrey the year before, and I shoot myself in the foot. I take JT last year, shoot myself in the foot. Like, damn it.
Yep. I took JT last year as well. Okay, so out of these 7 dudes, Bobby and AJ, which one do you think has the best potential to vault into that top 10 by the end of the year?
Bobby, I'm going.
AJ.
It's Travis Etienne. I don't think there's any question. I'm concerned.
Interesting.
I love the player.
I think I know who Bobby's going to go.
I love the player too, buddy.
Love the player, man. It's just he's too good.
So I would have to say it's probably going to be Joe Mixon for me.
Yeah.
Probably because of the fact that he's still tied to Joe Burrow. And by the way, Samaje P, we just talked about how another player, Nick Chubb lost Kareem Hunt. Look at Samaje P. Ryan's gone. Yeah. And I mean, we're talking about they have like nobody there. And Joe Mixon, I just feel like if they could just, the offensive line gets a little better with Orlando Brown at left tackle. They're kicking Jonah Williams. If he's able to make that transition to right tackle, they're keeping the 3 guys on the interior there. If he can improve, go from like 4 yards per carry to 4.5, that's going to help. But just getting maybe a target or 2 more a game without Samaje P. Ryan there, he could easily become a top 10 locked in running back this season. But that being said, he hasn't done it yet. So I want him to be a little more consistent. Last year, he had that one monster game that was like 55 points. And of course, every other game, it was kind of underwhelming. So that's why I actually bumped it down a few spots in my most recent rankings. But I think Mixon, if everything clicks with Joe Burrow, he could be a top 10 guy easy.
Yeah, he's got rookie Chase Brown behind him, who I loved. He was a combine darling, but still a rookie, and that's their RB2 on the team. So, yeah, that's probably a bigger drop off even than what Nick Chubb has behind him.
Where do you have Mixon right now, Bobby?
I moved him down to not moved him down, but I moved down to 11. I had him up as high as 7 or 8 at one point.
Okay.
And I was like, I need to calm down. So I calmed down.
I've heard some of your recent content, and I know you've been really high on Mixon. Yeah. Rightfully so.
All right. Tier 3 done. Tier 4, Kenneth Walker III, a.k.a. K9 Seahawks. Jacalyn Dobbins. That is not the right name.
I don't think so.
It is.
Can't be his real name.
Wow.
Sorry, guys.
Jacalyn Dobbins.
Take it up Ravens. With Mr. and Mrs. Dobbins. I don't know.
All right. Alexander Madison, Vikings, Cam Akers, Rams, Miles Adams Sandlers, a.k.a. Booby Miles, Panthers, Gross. Just wanted to make me say booby. James Earl Connor. Is that true?
These are all true, my man.
Oh, boy. Antonio Gibson, a.k.a. Gibby, the Washington, our beloved Red Hogs. David Montgomery for the Lions. Rashad White for the Bucks. And Damian Pierce with the Texans. Thoughts, boys?
That's
Bobby?
a lot of boys there. Yeah.
There's a lot of boys in tier 4.
Colt, you inspired me to go into a deep dive on Antonio Gibson, because when I tell you we are very far apart on this guy, I had to I was like, holy crap, what am I missing? So I think the one thing I will say about Antonio Gibson right now is I think the Jerick McKinnon type role would make a ton of sense for him in the Eric Bieniemy offense.
Exactly.
But the problem I have with that philosophy is, number one, they don't have Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes, by the way, was able to push that pass volume to 650 attempts a year easy. I think it's better to view the Commanders more like the Alex Smith years with the Kansas City Chiefs. Those passing seasons were about 3,500 yards, between 33 and 3,500 yards with Alex Smith, a much more conservative style passing game. And Kendrick West, if you will, was the kind of backups in that offense. So I think when I started looking at the numbers, when you look at the PPR points per game amongst running backs, they averaged 25 PPR points per game as a team in the Alex Smith years. So if you chop that up between Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson, just based on what they looked like last year over the latter half of the year, Robinson probably ekes out a little more production, about 12.4 and what I figured out, and Gibson falls all the way to 9.8 PPR points per game. So I'm a little concerned because I think Sam Howell will be more conservative, and it'll be more on the Alex Smith spectrum of the Chiefs offense than Patrick Mahomes. And by the way, McKinnon had 9 touchdowns last year in receiving game, which was a complete outlier for him. So
for sure.
It's tough to repeat that. So that's why I think Gibson's been the only player that I feel like me and you are completely off on. Everybody else, we've been very close.
How in the hell is Cam Akers still on a roster?
Love it.
Bobby's a big Cam Akers guy.
Love it. Oh, I love it. I actually have him at 16, so I'm in, man. I watch.
We are riding Cam Akers.
Oh,
yeah.
Man, I mean, watching.
I don't think Zach Evans is going to usurp him.
No way, man. I think they don't have a choice. I love when teams don't have a damn choice. They're like, well, we're gonna have to ride Cam Akers because we don't have jack shit.
That's a really good point.
I love that. I love no option. That makes me so happy for fantasy football, because then they don't have a freaking choice. So I'm in. I just think the stretch of last year when he was without Stafford. And I think McVay kind of was like, he found something a little bit in the run game with that makeshift offensive line. Now you infuse Stafford back in and Cooper Kupp. Only more scoring opportunities are going to happen for him. So I think he's going to be a rock solid player this year.
I maybe think Alexander Mattison may be able to sneak up into tier 3, especially, once that Dalvin Cook situation, well, he's already released, right?
Yeah, he's a
free agent. He's been released gone for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, he's gone. So Alexander Mattison, being the primary back in Minnesota, really has the opportunity to sneak up into maybe even the top half of tier 3, but definitely into that bottom half.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty big on Madison strictly from a void left by Dalvin Cook, and then behind him is Ty Chandler. So yeah, I'm pretty big on that. Yeah, I'm pretty big on Alexander. I mean, I know who Ty Chandler is, but I don't know. Does the average fantasy player know who Ty Chandler is? Maybe not. That's my point.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Bobby knows. Colt knows, but they're special.
He's in my top 150, baby. I'm in.
Yeah. Well, Bobby's got a top 150. Does your fantasy person have a top 150, huh?
Yeah. So I will say this about Madison. There isn't a lot of teams in the NFL that are willing to give their number one running back 250 to 300 carries in a season. And the Vikings have shown with Dalvin Cook they'll do that. You got to love that volume upside. So Madison's a great pick here.
Yeah, he got a pretty hefty contract. A 2-year deal. It was 7.5, 7.2 mil. He got decent money. He got starter money.
Yeah. Well, he'll get starter touches now.
Yeah,
all
exactly.
Right. Let's go 5 and 6 to our tiers. And that, oh boy, we have a mouthful here.
Alvin, Ryan, let's take our time here after you say these names. Let's really dive into these. Give us a tier 5, please.
Okay. Tier 5. We have Alvin.
You don't have to slow down your speech. I'm saying let's talk about it a lot. Go.
Is it Minshew Kamara?
That one I'm not sure of, but it is Mentian, and I cross-checked that one. That's legit.
Okay, let's get this a little more solo for the viewer here. DeAndre Tyon Swift,
Mhm.
Isaiah Pacheco, aka Pop,
Love that.
Khalil Herbert with the Bears, Dalvin James Cook, currently teamless, still in the top 31. Javonte Williams, Broncos, James Dalvin Cook. They have the same fucking name backwards.
Listen. I checked a number of places to make sure that this was not some bullshit on Wikipedia, and as far as I can tell, it is absolutely legit.
Oh, that.
Yep.
God damn
That's
it.
not confusing at all.
James
Well,
Cook at
Colt,
33.
What's confusing? One's got a first name that's one thing, and then the other one's got a middle name that's that same thing. Go ahead, Ryan, please.
All right. Devin A-Chain, Dolphins, Samaje Perine with the Broncos, and Damian Harris with the Bills. So a hefty tier 5. Alvin Kamara being in tier 5 is startling almost.
Striking.
I agree.
Striking.
It's suspension. That's basically probably what that is. If you hear, I guess Colt question is, if they come out and they say it's a 3-game suspension, would you bump them up a tier?
Sure. Yeah, I'd take him up
I
a
don't
tier
know
at
if
least.
I would.
I think I would.
He's getting older. He has an injury history. He didn't look like himself last year when he did play. I maybe one tier, but that's probably as far as I'd be willing to take Alvin Kamara.
That's fair, Ryan. I think that's probably as far as I'd be willing to go to, one tier. To your point, I mean, he didn't look very explosive last year. And they ran him between the tackles more. Like the way they used Kamara last year just was kind of a disservice to his skill set, if you ask me. He's not a 20 carry between the tackles guy. Like, throw him the ball. There were games where he just wasn't getting targets.
Do you think that the Jamal Williams signing was kind of them realizing that's probably true, and they decided to get Jamal Williams so they can move Kamara back to his more natural position, Colt?
I do, because you look at the tandem with Ingram that they had for a couple years there, the success that they had with like the Thunder and Lightning combo. I think that's kind of that thought process. Good point, Bobby. Keandre Miller could get a little work early in the season too if we see Kamara serve a suspension, which at this point looks pretty definitive. Whether it be 3 to 6, I don't know.
Question about
go ahead,
Dalvin
Bobby,
Cook. So, Cole, your rankings right now, are you – because you have Dalvin Cook still respectively high. I mean, 30 is not obvious. 31's not too high. But if it sounds like he might – Miami seems like the most likely destination.
Yeah.
If he lands in Miami, where is he going in your rankings?
Ooh, that's going to put him up likely tier 4, like around J.K. Dobbins, Alexander Madison territory for the moment. I think that's where I would probably go.
Okay, cool.
Can we talk about his brother, please?
James Dalvin?
Do you want to talk about his brother because they have similar names, or do you want to talk about him because
I do? I just made this banner, so I wanted to utilize it.
Okay.
So I really do like James Cook. I liked him when he was at Georgia as well. Do we think that Bills' offensive line is going to be good enough for James Dalvin Cook to show what he can do, or is it going to be kind of the same old with the same old mediocre Bills offensive line?
I kind of think it's the same old. I mean, and to kind of use like a cop-out, I rank them closely because I think Harris can get there on goal line opportunities. And I think I had to put James Cook up there a little bit just because of the PPR ranking format. But Josh Allen doesn't throw to the running backs a ton, but just, with some utilization.
I'm gonna be straight with you. I don't think you actually cared. I really, really, really think that you just wanted to put that fucking slide up.
That's accurate.
I don't believe it.
I do have a legitimate question about Dalvin Cook, though.
I do want to hear what Bobby has to say. Go ahead, Bobby.
No, it's just I'll admit, like when I went through this whole process, there's 3 teams that I haven't really gotten into yet because I'm not even sure really what to do with them. One is the Bills because Damian Harris is better than Devin Singletary, and Damian Harris has been a very good running back. He's perfect for what the Bills want. Josh Allen ain't throwing to his running backs a bunch. Give me a 2-down thumper, and I'll take care of the rest. Like, that's how Josh Allen is. So I think Damian Harris fits that really good. And plus, he's got 3rd-round draft capital, too, in his pedigree. So that's also a problem for James Cook. The other is Denver, which you have some – I love Samaje Perine and the idea of Samaje Perine. But, like, Javonte just feels like he's just going to probably play. He's going to probably play early on, and he's not going to be that effective because of the injury. But that's going to suck the value away from Samaje Perine as well. So, like, what's the group's thought about Perine here? Are you going to draft Perine or Williams first in drafts this year?
Colt has been banging the
Javonte Williams guy.
He's been banging that
Javonte.
drum for many years now. Are you still there, bud?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. I'm
here. I think obviously format specific. If it's a dynasty, I'm going Javonte. If I'm rebuilding, if I'm in a win now mode, I'll take a shot on Perine later as a plug and play win now piece. Redraft, I'm probably going to bank on taking Perine, hoping I get a little 2 to 3 week fill in replacement level value from him at some point. Whether that be early in the season, the first 4 to 6 games while we're waiting on Javonte to come in and establish the job from his full recovery process. I don't know. That's kind of where I stand. You could easily play it the other way where you take Javonte later. It just kind of depends on ADP in the draft, how I've built my team. If I've gone receiver heavy.
I can tell you that I think that as a whole, not just because Sean Payton and not just because I'm a Notre Dame fan, but Mike McGlinchey is one of the best run blocking offensive tackles in football, not overall tackles, but specifically run blocking. And him coming into the right tackle position for the Broncos, I think is going to, in addition to Sean Payton, is going to boost the ability of that entire backfield. So the answer to your question is I have no idea. I like Javonte Williams better, I think, but that's all potential based. In terms of what have you done for me lately, it's been Samaje Perine.
Very quickly, too high, too low in tier 5. Bobby.
Well, not very, but I have another question. Bobby, go ahead.
Which one am I answering?
Too high, too low, please.
Yeah. I think when I'm looking through this, I want to be higher on Isaiah Pacheco, but at the same time, like I said before, like me and Colt pretty close, about 3-4 spots on every player. The only guy that really we flipped was Antonio Gibson, really. I think DeAndre Swift might be a guy that I would like to bump up a little bit. I don't know. I just feel like when you're looking at the type of player Miles Sanders was and how they used him and they just gave him 250 carries. I know Swift has never been that guy, but I just think that when you're looking at Nick Sirianni, the kind of nonchalant style, like Miles Sanders was left for dead under Doug Peterson. Like they were in and out. They're digging Jordan Howard up out of the freaking dirt to put him on the field to run some carries with Boston Scott for half the game. So, like, Nick Sirianni seems like the younger coach is like, yo, put my best players out there. They'll figure it out. And I just kind of feel like, I know there's no analysis to that, but I just think that DeAndre Swift's going to come in and probably be that lead back on a dominant offense.
Yep. AJ, too high, too low.
I think so. Devin H.
That's what I was going to say too, baby.
Yeah. So that was my question too. So I'm gonna jump off from here. Colt, why is he so high?
Speed and the Miami Dolphins.
Okay.
That's the top 2 reasons I put him there.
And assuming that Dalvin James Cook goes somewhere else for the most part.
Right. And now that news break today.
Yeah, right. I know.
Yeah, all things created equal. These rankings were done a few days ago. And then today we get news that the Dolphins had offered Dalvin James Cook from the Vikings a contract. Now, we don't know how that's gone just yet, but obviously if Dalvin Cook lands in Miami, that's going to blow A-Chain out of the spot.
Yeah.
But why? So it's the speed.
Speed,
getting in there
the play calling, the pass catching, the explosive playmaking ability.
Devin A-Chain could be too high or too low.
I see. I think he's either right on time or too high. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not buying that of the rookies. That's maybe the best position, but I think there are better prospects on your list, Colt, than him.
Sure. I do too.
The good thing is like Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson basically can play special teams too. So like, I actually have confidence that they could keep those guys they'll be on the roster. I know they're a threat, but I think that they want Devin A-Chain to be the guy unless they bring in Cook, because those guys can play, like I said, special teams. And I just think that they need that youth movement. They need that speed back. Those home run here, look at Matt Breida when he first came into the league. Elijah Mitchell, those were like one-cut runners really fast, or they excel in this offense.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, tier 6. We're going to go Algiers Jamil Dillon, a.k.a. Quadzilla or Quad Father from Green Bay, A.J. Dillon. Rashad Armian Penny. Jeffrey Wilson Jr., Jamal Malik Williams, a.k.a. Swag. I don't like that at all for the Saints. Zachariah Charbonnet for the Seahawks. Brian Robinson Jr., our beloved Red Hogs. Jarek Deshaun McKinnon, Chiefs. Keandre Miller, Saints. And Roshan Johnson with the Bears. Roshan Johnson sneaking in 2 Texas rookie running backs in our top 45. Let's fucking ride, boys.
Yeah, I knew you'd love that.
Explain yourself, Colt.
I just think, well, the obvious with Bijan is there with the draft capital and, the projected volume that we believe he will get. Now, I just think Roshan is a better back than Deonta Foreman at this point in his career. The coaching staff selected him. I wrote up a nice little piece on him for Razzball. Check it out. I think it came out about 3 weeks ago. Took a deeper dive on Roshan. I think he complements Khalil Herbert in a really nice way, and I think Deonta Foreman is the nice veteran depth piece in that running back room. I think this could be, not Foreman's. I think this could be Roshan's backfield by the end of the year as the 1A.
Bobby?
So I looked into. I did an analysis on Razzball. If you guys go have a second to check it out. I actually looked at every play caller's history with rookie.
I saw that. I did,
and I wanted to see like how many produced double-digit fantasy points, 12 fantasy points, 14 fantasy points in their rookie season. The one guy that under Luke Getsy since 2014 that was able to produce a top 36 finish, which essentially is a double-digit fantasy points, was Jamal Williams in 2017. So not a lot of running backs have hit the ground running under Luke Getsy per se. This kind of reminds me of A.J. Dillon. Different style running backs, I understand. But remember when they had Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones, and they basically brought in A.J. Dillon. He basically sat behind those two guys for a year, and then Jamal Williams jetted to Detroit in free agency. I think that's kind of what's going to happen here. My prediction, where Roshan waits in the wings behind Khalil Herbert and Devonta Foreman. Foreman leaves after just one season, and then he steps into that number 2 role. Now, if you're telling me, do you think long-term he's a better bet for the RB1? You're basically saying that he's a bet this year to beat out Khalil Herbert. So you think he's a better pure runner, or do you think it's more of the all-around package Johnson brings?
I don't know if he's a better bet to beat out Herbert this year. I think he's a better bet to beat out Foreman based on like the bigger size power back.
That team's going to have to run the football a lot.
Yeah. And they made some improvements to the O-line.
Yeah.
They spent some money. They had to.
Yeah, their defense stinks too much to not run the football.
Yeah.
AJ, your thoughts on adding Zach Charbonnet to an already delightful backfield in Seattle?
But very much. I love Zach Charbonnet as a prospect. What he was able to do in – sorry, Bobby, and any West Coast college football fans, but the soft Pac-12, I don't mean soft like that, just soft like that. Zach Charbonnet was excellent at Michigan, excellent at UCLA, tough, low center of gravity, has all the requisite skills to be a solid NFL contributor. And then when you add someone like K9 to soften defenses, it's just it's an embarrassment of riches that they have. And I think this is probably you don't have one great running back. You have 2 great running backs or 2 good running. I think this is not the exception so much as what is becoming the rule. And I love the prospect. I'm not sure when his time will come in terms of volume, where he rises, but the player is of a higher tier value.
Sure. Do we have a guy? I have a guy. Out of these bottom tiers, maybe 5 or 6, that we want to be better than we think they're going to be. Like, we're just fans of this person, and we want them to be better.
Ryan, this is super leading, so I'm just going to go ahead and bounce that tennis ball right back across to you.
Mine's Brian Robinson. His character is such that you would really like to see him succeed. Is there somebody like on this list for you guys that you would like to see them be a little bit higher and believe that they have the potential to be higher on this list?
Hey, why don't you toss me back that talkie ball, because I want to see Isaiah Pacheco run. I there's no chance that he gets enough work to go much, much higher than this. But the fact that he came in and beat out a bunch of, a first round pick and a guy they brought in to be their starter and came up from nowhere. I love to, and the dude runs as angry as anyone I've ever seen. He's so much fun. It's so
he
violent.
is awesome.
I love watching him. I want him to do really well. In terms of his fantasy value, I don't know. I don't see how he could go too much further. I think tier 4 would probably be his max based on what they'll allow him.
That
to
offense spreads
handle.
it out so well, and
right.
If I have to watch another shovel pass to Travis Kelce on the 1 yard line when I had Pacheco in my fantasy league, I almost lost my shit last year. I was every week, it's this stupid little shovel pass that works every freaking time.
Yep.
And I'm and Pacheco goes 15 carries for 80 yards and nothing else.
And no TDs, no catches. Exactly.
What the fuck? It's so bad. I would love it just watching him run. And by the way, just look at the history. I guess that I was going to tie back to what Ryan said with Brian Robinson. I'm a believer in Robinson. I have him about, I think it's I would say double digits, probably 14 spots higher than you do, Colt. Because I think that when you look at the running backs that have succeeded with Eric Bieniemy, it's always they always do have a foundational runner. So when you look back to Spencer Ware, then you got, even Jamal Williams before that. Then it jumped to Kareem Hunt. Then it went right to CEH. Doesn't seem like there was. CEH who had 181 carries in 13, 14 games. But he's probably a good bet for 200-plus carries in this offense. So I think that based on the list you have here, Robinson has the clearest path to the starting role and 200 touches.
Yeah, and he was out on the field 6 weeks after being shot thrice in the leg.
Mm-hmm.
What an insane season that dude had. Yeah, it was 3.9 yards a touch, but I'm a believer in the player. I'm a believer in the character. I'm a believer in the work ethic. I loved what he did at Alabama. I like his running style.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of like what our beloved Red Hogs have in the trenches to get all sloppy with those large boys that AJ likes so much, and give him some holes.
He came out to many men when he first came back from his injury, which is awesome as hell.
Yeah,
that was so cool. Yeah. I was all in after that.
Yeah, he did. All right.
Bob, hold on. I've got one for Bobby, and I've got Bolt. Just mind your manners.
Ryan, I'm going to eat my mini corn
dogs. I don't need to hear about it. Bobby, so it's weird for me, and obviously Colt, it's weird for me to see A.J. Dillon so far down here at 37. What is, Bobby, you said you dove into, in a capacity, but you dove into some play caller tendencies, particularly with certain situations. But so the Packers, we're thinking, do not have the capacity to support two high-producing running backs in an offense figured would start to be more run-heavy.
Yeah.
Is that not what we're thinking? Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, he had 186 carries in back-to-back seasons, essentially, as the second RB. We got to remember that's a decent-sized workload for a 1B back or a 2. And when you look at the touchdowns, he had 5 and 7 over the last 2 years. His passing game role was kind of limited. He still got 43 targets. All that was still there. And that was with MVP Aaron Rodgers and then whatever broken thumb Aaron Rodgers was last year. I think that you throw the wrench in the uncertainty of Jordan Love. I can't promise a fantasy manager that Jordan Love's going to be any good. I mean, there's some hope that he'll be good, but is he going to be better than Aaron Rodgers was last year in his first year? Probably not. So it's hard to imagine. And Dillon's I think he's going to finish higher than you have him ranked. But do I really care when he's averaging 10 PPR points per game? Yeah, he might finish as the RB 30 to 35, but that's not going to win your fantasy league. Give me the shots on guys who have a chance to be starters like Brian Robinson, for example.
Yeah, Coulter, your thoughts on that too?
I like that philosophy.
I totally agree. Dylan, just kind of a bye-week replacement level player. I mean, he looked pretty underwhelming last year.
Next question, Colt, is for you. You have made a big deal about the unpolished gem to the untrained eye, Roche, from the University of Texas is back, and you wrote an article about him. He's an excellent player that was hid behind a generationally excellent player at the University of Texas is back. So tell us, why do you like Roche? He's a number 45 for Colts rankings. Why do you like Roschon Johnson so damn much?
I just think he's got an exclusive blend of power.
Listen, Colt, don't give away the farm. If they haven't read it, don't give it too much away.
Actually, better yet, please promote the site and read it for word for word if you can.
Furthermore, yes, yeah, that's the best answer.
Buy Colt or Snowdy. Yeah,
go to Razzball.com and read the article. Yeah, I think Roschon, he's kind of a full package. He's not the best prospect in this class by any means, but I think his utility is he can do everything well. Pass protection, receiving, short yardage, goal line. He would have been a starter in any other team. And he lands in Chicago with what I view as a relatively ambiguous backfield with a coaching staff that selected him. I'm just in on taking the swing on a rookie running back, knowing that in redraft especially, we see it time and again, we have to wait on these rookie running backs to develop. So taking a guy like Roschon late in your redraft, you might cut him before you even need him, but you can scoop him back up maybe week 8, and then come week 13 or 14, he's really paying dividends for you. That's kind of how I'm viewing it. Like as a worst case scenario, he may take some time to develop, but I mean in Dynasty, I'm a bit more all in, especially at the price.
Yeah,
can I ask one of you guys a question?
Please.
Well, please, yeah.
Ryan, kick it over to you on this one. Zach Cabernet versus like Kenneth Walker. Are you putting a flag plant on anybody for that one, or you think it's gonna be a split?
I think I would still plant my flag with Kenneth Walker. It's probably, I don't know. Zach Charbonnet is so good, man. He was really good at Michigan. He was even better at UCLA. And I think he has all the tools to be an every down running back, but that's not what Seattle's going to ask him to do.
Mm-hmm.
I do think he's a little bit better at catching the ball out of the backfield than Kenneth Walker is. I would still probably take Walker ahead of Charbonnet, but that backfield is going to be so dynamic with both of those young backs ready to rock and roll. Healthy Kenneth Walker coming off a monster rookie year, and then Zach Charbonnet ready. Because, like, if he had stayed at Michigan, I think he probably would have had some Heisman type hype, but he went to UCLA and had the season he had there. If he had that season in Michigan, it would have been a Heisman type situation.
Right. And I wanted to make that point because you're hearing us talk about he transferred from Michigan to UCLA. Was he beat out? Yeah. I'll tell you who he was beat out by. 5-star Donovan Edwards. If you're Dynasty or Devi even, you'll know these guys. 5-star Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum, who is, I think,
he was a Heisman finalist last year.
He was a Heisman finalist last year. I was just going to go as far as to say as outside of Quinshon Judkins, which our Devi guys will know who that is. Maybe some Dynasty guys might know too. But outside of him, Blake Corum is about as good as it gets. That's why Zach Charbonnet moved out to L.A. for no other reason than he had a Heisman candidate and a 5-star running back who got run as a freshman in some places too much to the chagrin of that Heisman finalist. So it was a crowded backfield.
Charbonnet is so good, though, Bobby, to answer your question. Like, if you made me stake a claim, it would probably still be Kenneth Walker. But Zach Charbonnet is going to be such a supplemental piece to that offense. And we're a big Geno Smith podcast too, so it's going to be great for Big Geno.
And Colt, last question, man. For me at least, I think there's a couple guys that I had ranked that you don't have. Guys like Jerome Ford, Malik Davis. I know there's a couple landmines out there, of course, like Leonard Fournette, Dalvin Cook, Zeke Elliott that can still sign with teams. Maybe Zeke comes back to the Cowboys. Is there a one player that you were like, maybe he's 46, so he just didn't make the cut? So is there a guy that you're like, I probably wish I put him in here after some research?
Yeah, there's a couple of guys that were on that cusp. And to your point, there are some landmine guys still out there. Your Kareem Hunt, Leonard Fournette, Ezekiel Elliott. One guy for me would be Rashad Penny. I mean, who's to say Rashad Penny is not going to be that guy in Philadelphia, running behind the number one PFF ranked offensive line?
Yeah, Colt Lenardi. Who's your first guy out?
I'm sorry,
Colt Lenardi, bracketologist.
Too deep.
Who's number 46?
Reel it back.
I have a hard time believing you stopped at 45. Is that really a thing? You didn't get to 50. You just said 45.
That was me.
Like,
that was me.
Oh,
that was this guy.
Weird number.
I know.
Who was 46, Coulter?
What's that?
Who was 46?
Oh, I'm sorry. I had Penny at 38. I mixed myself up. Sorry. I was looking at too many things.
Yeah, I almost dropped off the podcast. I was like, this is ridiculous. The guy's not even listening to me right now. I'm your kid. How dare you? What's going on? No, that's a good answer because
Elijah Mitchell. Elijah Mitchell, 46.
So it's going. Yeah.
Yeah. He was like right. 10 carries. He was right on the cusp.
Yeah.
He was right on the cusp. I'm sorry, Bobby. I was listening. I got mixed up. I was reading.
Colt's very tired. He's running 2 restaurants right now.
That's true.
I am very tired.
I should have given you a hard time.
It's not an excuse, though.
Don't give them any air, Colt. They already taken off.
Mother AJ to the rescue. All right. So are we feeling comfortable about our running back rankings? Bobby, your thoughts or final thoughts from anybody?
Bobby, go ahead, my man.
No, I was just going to say, like, I think the one guy that I keep kind of not sure what to do with him is J.K. Dobbins, and you don't even have Gus Edwards on here. So it's clear that you feel that Dobbins is going to just be the clean-cut guy, but we have seen kind of a split. I feel like every time they're both healthy, they do split work. Plus, you have the Todd Monken experience coming in, and what's that going to be with the pass-heavy offense? But I guess my other question is, like, J.K. Dobbins is someone I kind of always just glance over, and I'm like, I think he's going to be fine. But you have him as a clear guy. So why is that? Do you think Gus Edwards is not going to have a big role?
I think his explosive playmaking ability exceeds Gus Edwards by a mile. And I think he's just another year off that ACL recovery. I think we started to see some flash and pop from Dobbins last year. I'm excited about Lamar's fit in the offense. I'm excited about some new perspective on the offense. A lot of this is just theoretical. It maybe even wish casting, you could say too. But I think Dobbins is a great player. I think he's kind of been trapped in a situation of conservation by the previous coaching staff. And I think this year they kind of open things up a little bit more in regards to the running and passing game.
Yeah. I like that. All right, boys. We ready to move on to the pronunciation game?
I wish we were. Colt, go ahead and tell everyone, and we'll get this in the beginning somehow, but Colt, tell everyone what league format and all of that stuff that we're talking about with these rankings.
Yeah, just in case it may not have made it in, this is redraft running back rankings for the 2023 season, full point PPR. So these are 6 tiers of rankings, running backs 1 through 45.
Very good. Okay. Oh boy, Bobby, Bud, Ryan, go ahead.
Bobby, this is the pronunciation game. We used to have the same old names on all of our podcasts, and then people started getting wise to our shenanigans. So AJ found different names. These are things our old roommate Evan Carmison, my adopted adult son, can't say. AJ, please take this away for me.
Yeah, sure. And I want to make it clear that there are 32 teams in the National League, and I've got 3 names for all of them. So if you just math real quick, that's a lot of names. And then I had to figure out how exactly to pronounce these. I'm talking about some interviews going back that far.
Pronunciation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I want to double check your math on that, but I had to go back to the high school tapes of these gentlemen saying their own name to try to figure it out. Anyway, let's see if you can get these. This is the Cleveland Browns edition as of May 2023. That's not what today is. But this is an offensive lineman from LSU. What is his name, Bobby?
Ethan Pokic. I'm also the worst with pronunciation. Those are the worst.
That's perfect. So we have Ethan Pozick. Yeah,
Pozick,
I don't know if you can see there's not.
It's so much worse that you put up the actual pronunciation right after. You guys.
Very deceptive.
Yeah, I sort of made up my own sort of pronunciation guide that I could understand because that's what's important. This next one is a linebacker from BYU. Gets a little bit of run for the Browns. What's his name?
Sion Takitaki.
Ooh, so damn slow. Sione. Yeah. No, you got the emphasis on the O. It's Sione. No, he got that. He got that. Taki. Yeah. Just one little syllable off there. So our last one here. Well, maybe it's our last one. Maybe it's not. A defensive lineman from Ohio State. What is his name?
Now, you put Tommy up there, which throws me off because I'm like, there's no way they're going to give me a layup. It's going to be like some weird pronunciation for Tommy, but I'm going to
Bobby, because you've done a lot for us, so I'll say it is Tommy.
Don't make me look bad. You're done. That's it. Tommy Togiai. Tommy Togiai.
Oh,
sounds great.
That's it. It's Togiai, but sure. Yeah, full points. No. Full points. Right. You didn't hear me. I said nothing.
Give you that.
Now you do have to do this one, and you very quickly. What is this? This is. We think he's still the kicker for the Houston Texans. No one's checked in on the Texans in a while, so they say, but theoretically he still is. What's his name though, Bobby?
Kai Fairbairn.
Judges?
Unacceptable.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's it. Perfect. Well done. Wow. Congratulations. That's winning the McCorkle Award. All right. Lamarco. My God. Last week's winner was Ellis Bryn Johnson. Gentlemen, let's put them together again. A real SWF round of applause to Bobby for taking time to join us tonight. It's Pacific time. Who knows what time it is out there? On the East Coast, it's like 11 something. It's probably like 7 a.m. in the morning for Bobby. Who knows? So thank you for joining us tonight because it's crazy. Bobby, plug your stuff, plug our stuff, plug Razzball. Tell them all the stuff that we talked about a little earlier. They need to know again because they're forgetful.
What's mine is yours, boys. Remember that now. That's got Razzball, fantasy football. Make sure you jump over to razzball.com. We have great content on the football, basketball, baseball, and hockey, so we're year-round on the website. We also have TikTok and IG. If you want to just see me doing weird 1-minute videos, go jump over to TikTok. I'm over there doing it. So I'm trying. That's true. Razzball OnlyFans, if you want to go check it out.
Yeah. We're doing foot stuff this month.
Football, foot stuff makes sense. I love that. We just lost half our followers. Anyway, so basically it also makes you check out Jacob Charnell. He's on our Tuesday show. He makes you check out these guys. We also have the Dynasty Diehards on Thursdays. And then we got our ranking shows and our mock drafts all off season long. So I really do appreciate you guys having me on. And I've been loving this stuff. I love the banter. It's been really fun.
Bobby, thank you so much.
Thank you, my man.
Genuine and sincere thank you for being with us. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to continue to do what we love to do.
Spread ourselves.
Dick around with a bunch of friends. And thank you to the listeners for listening to the Shall We Football podcast. Please subscribe to our responsibly sourced podcast on any platform and Fantasy Football by Razzball, where our humble podcast can now also be found on any platform. Also, subscribe to the Razzball Fantasy YouTube channel for video versions of our fine program. They are back. We did them before. They were awful. Now they are better because we have PV. That is production value. You can follow Razzball on Twitter as well. That's at Razzball. Colt writing fantasy football articles on Razzball as well. Check those out with links to our fine program. Football.razzball.com. Follow us on Twitter at SWF_podcast. That's at SWF_podcast. 2 Longhorns in the top 45. If Texas ain't back, I don't know what is.